on January 3rd. That'd be a fantastic outcome. You know, none of these games on are games that you think, all right, we can't win this one. Indiana is, you know, they required the other night against Florida State an absolutely phenomenal performance by Devontae Green, and that was important from the offensive perspective. But defensively, I thought they were really connected. I thought they played exceptionally hard. You looked at a guy the other night like Demezy Anderson, who went to work on defense, and that's a guy that, you know, and what we've seen in the past is he goes out on the floor and kind of spins in circles and runs aimlessly as he defends, and all of a sudden it seemed like the other night he kind of got it and the switch flipped. Armand Franklin has been terrific on the defensive end, and a guy who can spell Al Durham at the point position until Rob Finney gets back. I like the way they looked against Florida State, but we're going to have to see what happens against Wisconsin and Nebraska and Arkansas and Notre Dame, all winnable games. But this team is going to have to find a way to be really, really disciplined in the way it does its business. And that is something that we really haven't seen in Bloomington for quite some time, going back to the Tom Crean era.
Well, yeah, I mean, IU men's basketball program has seen a lot of changes since 1998. Back then, Bob Knight was the head coach of the Hoosiers, where they went 12-year, were on a 12-year NCAA streak. Now Archie Miller is in his third season as a head coach, and he's got to get something done, and he's off to a good start, obviously, as we talked about. But the Hoosiers haven't made the NCAA tournament since 2016, but IU has an opportunity to do something today that's really special, and that hasn't been done since 1998 and beat Wisconsin on the road. Wisconsin is a tournament team.
Well, we're going to find out. I mean, they piled up losses as high as they piled up wins the other night against North Carolina State. They didn't look terribly good. They don't look like they are connected as a unit, so maybe this is a good time to get them. You know, on December 7th, instead of getting them on February 7th when Greg Gard and that group's likely to have things a little bit more coalesced and figured out. But I like where Indiana is. And Archie, you can tell through his behavior with the media that he likes where his team is. I always, if a guy's funny in media availabilities, I think that shows something. We've never seen Archie Miller be funny before this year. You know, I look at a team like Butler, and they got that game against Florida coming up in just like an hour and 45 minutes at Henkel Fieldhouse. And Lavelle Jordan has kind of become a different communicator with the media this year. I think Archie Miller being funny about Devontae Green, you know, practicing shots, being funny about some of the other guys, I think it's a sign that he really likes the way his team's working.
You know, we're talking about Bobby Knight, and, you know, there was a lot of buzz on social media this week about him possibly returning to Assembly Hall. And, you know, that would be a big thing. Obviously, we know what he hasn't been back since he was released, and he's refused. When he was in the media, he refused to talk about IU. I know there's rumors through the grapevine that he's suffering from maybe Alzheimer's or dementia, and maybe he's just trying to tie up some loose ends. It's sad, but it's also it would be good to see him back at the Bloomington campus.
You know, I wish I didn't care about this. I wrote about it yesterday at KentSterling.com about Bob Knight coming back to Assembly Hall, and I wish that I could get over it and just think, you know what, he's an old man. He's always been bitter about his departure from Indiana. He's never gotten over it. And he hasn't treated the university well. He hasn't treated some of the people tethered to the university and his program very well. And so I wish that I could get beyond it and just say, you know what, we move on and it's over. But I can't. I would love to see him walk out of that tunnel one more time. I'd love to hear the cheers. I'd love for him to hear the cheers. I really feel like it would be a wonderful moment for he and his family. And hopefully that comes to pass. I don't know whether it will. I think that his moving to Bloomington shows that he's not quite as worried about appearances as maybe he was a few years ago, and not quite as bitter about his departure from IU. He went to a baseball game. I think he'll go to a basketball game, and I hope he still has the cognitive ability to experience the love that is going to be thrown his way during that moment. And I hope that a lot of the guys who played for him and have some bitterness toward him, I hope they kind of get over it. I think that that's important too. I'd like to see Bob Knight become a fixture at Indiana games in the way that Katie is, or in the way that John Wooden was at UCLA games. I think that'd be great for him. I think it'd be great for everybody involved in the program, and I'd love to see that happen. You cannot look at that building at Simon Scott Assembly Hall and not think about Bob Knight if you went to Indiana during his era. You just can't do it. That building and that guy are tethered, and I hope that at some point he comes back and enjoys what I'm sure would be a raucous ovation and a great night of basketball.
Oh, absolutely. And, speaking of just a great night of just maybe having a panel discussion between two greats, wouldn't it be great to have a panel discussion either at Mackey Arena or Assembly Hall with Bobby Knight and Gene Cates on the same stage and someone like you emceeing questions or whatever? Wouldn't that be a good experience for fans to have?
It'd be unbelievable, and they do that periodically. They make a couple of dollars each of them do when that happens, when they get together and they talk, and they enjoy it. They love telling stories. They're really, really good at it. I think that'd be wonderful for all of us. We have so many good memories of that. All the people who go back to like 1972, but also. For us, the people in the 80s just loved Indiana basketball, loved what Bob Knight did, and how that program behaved. They never cheated. They always graduated their kids. They did things the right way, and while everybody around them was cheating, and they won like hell. I mean, they had a non-conference winning streak at Assembly Hall that stretched from like 1984 to 1997. They won national championships in 76, 81, and 87. They went to the tournament almost every year. It was the gold standard for college basketball, and Bob Knight was the architect of it. And I really do think that he belongs in some respect at Indiana University. And I'd like to see the university, and I know this isn't going to happen, but I'd like to see them employ the guy and allow him to be a bona fide member of Indiana University if his health will allow that.
No, I totally agree with that. And, Dan Dockage and Bob Knight have no love lost between each other, but he did make a valid point a few weeks ago on the show. He goes, no matter what my personal feelings are about Bob Knight, one thing that he never did do was cheat, and his kids did graduate. So, that solidifies that point. I mean, I like Dan. He's a good guy. You take it with a grain of salt. But, you make a valid point that when we look at where we're at with college coaches, unfortunately, Archie's brother being caught up in these cheating scandals and one thing after another, bring back the good old days. That's what I say.
And Bob Knight really never took the salary that he was due at Indiana. He always worked kind of for pennies on the dollar. He was never greedy. He raised a hell of a lot of money for that library fund. He did a lot of real good things for Indiana. It's impossible to ignore the bad, and ignoring the bad does nobody a service. But there was a lot of good that Bob Knight authored in Bloomington at Indiana University. That's a better university today for Bob Knight being a part of it than it would have been had he not been. And to Dan's point, I mean, I've been a friend of Dan's forever, and I can tell you that Dan, in private conversations or speaking publicly, like the thing that the assistant coaches were psychotically paralyzed with fear about was being caught doing something that was an NCAA violation, because Knight just absolutely would not have it. And so that was a thing. There was fear in that. Like, not only did the assistant coaches not try to get away with anything, the assistant coaches bent over backwards to be above board and be straight up and not commit any kind of violation, because that wasn't the way Knight did business.
Kent Sterling of KentSterling.com. Kent, I appreciate you joining us. Real quickly on the Homer card, blue and gold, the Pacers off to a pretty good start. What are your thoughts on the outlook of the Pacers? Obviously, we're still early on the season with the Pacers, but it looks like they're getting off to a good start. I think they have the Knicks tonight or tomorrow. Had a loss last night, I believe.
Yeah, they lost to the Pistons last night. They've got the Knicks tonight. I wasn't happy with the way the Pacers played in the first half last night, but that was a greedy situation. I was up at the sports book in Anderson, and I thought, you know what, this is a disciplined team. They're going to come out in Detroit on the third game of this road trip. They're going to put the Pistons away early, and I lost a few shekels as a result of that. So I was a little agitated about your Indiana Pacers. But you know what, 14-8 at this point without Victor Oladipo. I don't think that anybody can be too disturbed about that or disappointed. Nate McMillan, talk about a guy who's happy with his team. He's happy with his team. He likes their level of work. He likes the level of camaraderie. This is a team that coalesced very, very quickly and became – we saw the first 3 games of the season. The Pacers lost, and it looked like maybe it was going to take some time for these guys to gel. It's been a very quick process. I think when they get Oladipo back, they're going to have a starting 5 that defensively is outstanding and guys who are willing to share the ball offensively. You got a scoring machine in T.J. Warren, who is, T.J. buckets. He can shoot threes. He's got a great mid-range game. He can get to the rim. Malcolm Brogdon, if Malcolm Brogdon spoke to your group, if he showed up at like a Rotary Club or a Sertoma Club, and he gave a speech and said, I'm running for whatever the office, mayor, congressman, senator, president, you would leave that meeting saying, okay, I'm voting for that guy. That's the kind of person Malcolm Brogdon is. And this team has become a reflection, I think, of the professionalism that Malcolm Brogdon brings to it. And I love watching them play. They play NBA basketball in a way that very few teams in the NBA do. They share the ball at an extreme level, and that is really, really tough in that league.
Kent Sterling of KentSterling.com. Kent, what are you working on this week?
I'm on my way to Hickle Fieldhouse to watch the Butler Bulldogs play against Florida. I cover everything. I'm at Pacers practice. I'm at Butler. I'm at the Colts complex, as often as they have media availability. So what I try to do is really give people here and people around the country a great, honest, unfiltered look at what goes on with these teams and have a hell of a time doing it.
Kent Sterling, you can find him on Twitter at Kent Sterling. Appreciate you joining us as always, sir, and enlightening us and helping us have a better understanding of life.
Well, my pleasure. That's a big statement. I'll keep trying to live up to it.
All right, buddy. You have yourself a good weekend.
You too. Thanks, Tom.
Kent Sterling of KentSterling.com. Love having him on. He certainly is, very knowledgeable when it comes to Indiana sports. I appreciate him playing the Homer card with us for a little bit. We're going to have Mo from the BS Sports Show on here in a few minutes. He's running a few minutes late, but we're going to get into this NFL talk and some more of this college football bowl talk. We'll be right back right here on the Balance Radio Network.
National Guard is a reserve component of the United States Air Force and serves alongside active-duty Air Force members in times of a national crisis. In addition, the Air Guard serves the state and local community in a wide range of capacities. The reason people join the Air Guard is as diverse as our members and includes such reasons as a deep desire to serve their country, money for college, travel, new job skills, and the pride that goes along with belonging to the greatest military organization in the world. I joined because I felt a calling to serve my country, but I didn't want to be far away from my family. so the Indiana Air National Guard was a perfect fit for me. With over 95 different career opportunities